Hey, everybody.
Welcome to the Working Fans Podcast Royal Rumble Review, doing a little special broadcast for you here.
Yeah.
And
wow.
Dave,
it was a great show.
Yeah, I'm going to let you take the reins on this because you wanted to do this, and, I'm just excited to talk about the show.
All right. So let's talk about the Royal Rumble first. I'm going to talk about, well, actually, I'll tell you what. What do you remember from this Royal Rumble, this first match? What were your thoughts on it?
Let's see. The big men coming in about midway was a nice thing when it was like Brock, Lashley, Gunther was already in there. I think you had Sheamus and Drew McIntyre. So that collision of worlds was a nice touch there.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, I got some notes down, right? Because I was thinking, so much happened. Edge and the Judgment Day stuff, right? That was in the middle of the Rumble. Beth Phoenix spearing Ripley was a part of that. And then that would play a part later because you see Ripley, she would be selling the ribs when she was on her way down. We had Booker T make a surprise cameo, who looked in great shape for in his 50s here. Lesnar and Lashley, like you talked about.
Booker T looked good, but it was like he did the one move. Yes. And I'm like, ooh, they should have just kept it to that, because then I think when he did a second one, I'm like, all right, he looks good in the ring.
Yes.
But it's like they should have limited it. I remember enjoying that because I definitely popped for him coming out.
Yeah, Booker to me is one of those guys. Booker and Edge are like two of my favorites, so seeing them in the Rumble was cool for me. Gunther's also one of my favorites. Seeing him get not only treated like a big man, but also like the Iron Man, going coast to coast to 1 to 30 was just awesome. I love how we treated Gunther. I love how well he's been doing since coming up to the main roster. Coincidentally, when Triple H took over creative, maybe, but regardless, pretty cool that, this guy's getting the run he's getting right now. The Intercontinental title has felt more important than it has in years. Logan Paul showing up with Ricochet, that little highlight where they springboard from top of each other. Logan Paul getting rid of Seth Rollins, which looks like it's setting up to a WrestleMania match. I thought they did so much stuff here. I thought this was a nice hot start. I really enjoyed it. And ultimately, Cody Rhodes coming out on top, looking strong, talking about afterwards in the press conference how that this is, a memory. This is something he wanted. This is his top moment in wrestling. He saw it in another interview with Ariel Helwani too. Basically, his top 3 moments are, and I'm surprised he said this because he mentions AEW too, but he said that his top 3 moments are this Royal Rumble win, coming back at WrestleMania, and basically all in, because he said that was like the Woodstock of pro wrestling. And he said he feels like a lot of those fans are with him right now. And seeing how hot, this makes Cody, this story and everything, but then knowing that it's only a part of it, right? Because then we're going to get on to later in the show, and that's where the fucking mega heat really comes from. But I thought this was a nice start.
Yeah, it was a very good start. I mean, there were, like you said, a lot of storylines leading into WrestleMania, and I like the way a lot of things were stacked. I'm glad you took notes because I tried watching this just as a fan, and at least at this part of the show, I was still into it and very energetic. Now, before we get into the other 4 matches on this show, let me quickly play this intro video, and then we will start talking about the other 4 matches that seem to take 2.5 hours.
Yeah, which that's not going to happen with us. We're going to spend a lot of time on the Rumbles and the main event, but go ahead.
All right.
All right, yes. So we're back. And like you said, The other matches, it was interesting because, like I said, I thought we started off hot and great, and then we went to the pitch black match.
Which
Bray
wasn't
Wyatt,
bad.
it wasn't bad. Bray Wyatt, who was the hottest character back in October when he came back. LA Knight, who I think has maybe even outshined Bray a little bit in this feud, just because they're really letting him talk. But this wasn't anything. Actually, you know what? I will say this for everybody who didn't like this or did like this. I thought it was almost the perfect position of it because it was right after that long rumble, short and sweet. From a pro wrestling fan, not sure of the logistics of like what this was. It was like a glow in the dark match. You know what I mean? Like he's wearing,
Black light match.
Yeah, sure. He's wearing neon green tights. You know what I mean? It's just, yeah.
Well, yeah, that's what made the lights they use made all the colors pop, and it also made Bray's makeup come out of it.
Right.
Now, this was the perfect spot for this because the only other match that could have gone in this spot would have been the ladies' titles match.
Right.
And I don't think you want to demean that title. I mean, you didn't do it many favors putting it after this match on this show.
Right.
But I mean, everything kind of went where it had to.
Yeah, I would say. I mean, you could argue the Women's Rumble could have gone on first. I thought it was nice for them to get the co-main event spot, but I thought the Women's Rumble, as we'll get to later, started off a little slow, and the crowd was a little slow, but it built up nicely. So, but whereas the men had so much different stuff going on, it would have been interesting if they had just flip-flopped those. But I again, this was what it was. I thought Bray getting the win here. We see Uncle Howdy with a big high spot after the match is over, going through LA Knight on a rampway with a big dive. And then we see
he went through something. I think he missed LA Knight because when I saw him jump, I'm like, where did he go?
A few people almost ate shit. We didn't even talk about Pat McAfee starts off this show too. Michael Cole sounds genuinely surprised to see him. If he did not know he was coming, good on him because like he sold it well.
You know, yeah, thank God there was that producer there to hold the chair when Pat McAfee gets up on it because he almost ate shit minutes into the broadcast.
Yes, minutes into the he almost fell. And maybe Uncle Howdy did too. But very interesting. We saw some of the other fun flyer fight.
Daniel Backley from Cage My IQ checking in.
What's up, Daniel? Talking about Royal Rumble last night. And yeah, we saw some of the other Funhouse characters show up at the end of this. And I'll be interested to see if we see more of this. Which, again, let's go right into the next match. Alexa Bliss, Bianca Belair. Again, to me, it kind of was what it was, but I was feeling, for me personally, I was feeling the length a little bit at this time, right? And I thought Bianca won. And then at the end of it, you know, we got the whole, you know, the character where Uncle Howdy shows up again, and we're teasing Alexa Bliss maybe being part of this. Interesting, but there was just bigger fish to fry on this pay-per-view.
Yeah, Daniel going back asking thoughts on the mask that Bray put on after he won.
Cool look. Bray's the master of the look, right? Like he's definitely got that whole horror movie type thing down. What do you think? You're a fan of horror. Like, what do you think of like the looks?
He's worked with horror makeup artist and special effects guy Tom Savini on his mask. So, I mean, I wasn't blown out of the water by this mask, but it was a cool addition. I like how he's changing things up and keeping it fresh. Daniel saying he put a red mask on.
Now, like I said, we're going to speed through some of this, and we have read the Women's Rumble, but trust me, we're going to talk a little bit more.
Yeah, because we had a sponsor. We had the Men's Rumble. We had a sponsorship match. We had a Ladies Championship match. And then we got to the Ladies Rumble, which...
What'd you think?
It was all right. I mean... It probably would have been better earlier because, like you said, it was slow moving.
Right.
There were less exciting things in it. I mean, maybe I think the most exciting things were. Oh, Daniel Backley saying women's title match was boring and short in his opinion. I thought for the Women's Rumble, like Chelsea Green was a cool surprise. Eliminated early. I hope that leads to something with her character. Nia Jax coming back, cool enough. Like, it was good to see Roxanne Perez in there. I wasn't overly won over by this Rumble. Like, by this time, I was kind of tired. And I'm like, Can we just
Sure.
get the main event on? Good enough. It
So
was
here's
good to
what
see Ripley win.
here's some stuff I like. I like you, Chelsea Green. It's it's interested to see her. I hear she's going to be playing like a Karen type role where she's like complaining about things. She was complaining as she was on her way there, and then obviously she gets eliminated quick. So that'll be something they do. Let's see what Back's going to say. I felt they dropped the ball with having Raquel win. Ripley could have got the title shot without having win it, but that's just me. Okay, so he wanted to see Raquel Rodriguez win there.
Yeah, because
But
it was like her home state. It would have helped put her over. I see what he's saying, but I mean Ripley was the strongest, the most likely to win coming into this.
I think Ripley for me she's a star in the making, but this solidifies it, right? Like I think she needs this on her resume, and you're going to build steam towards her WrestleMania match. I think we maybe do something with Beth Phoenix in Montreal, which I think would be great. I think that crowd's
I'm wondering if they have her go up against Charlotte at WrestleMania and maybe try and get that win back from a couple years ago.
I think that would be a great thing to do, because I think with Bianca, you could do a couple different things, right? You could do the match. Well, I mean, I don't know. There's a couple different things. We'll have to see where they end up going here, because is Rousey out of the equation right now? What's Becky going to do at the end of this day? Do we do another Becky Bianca match? I don't know, so I think Rhea Ripley is the main ingredient here, though. Whatever she ends up doing, whether against Bianca or Charlotte, that's going to be the most interesting women's match there. There's some other stuff I wanted to note here. Michelle McCool was back just briefly. She was in the audience.
Yeah, maybe the only legend to get in this.
Absolutely. Yeah, former the first ever Divas champion, as we noted on a recent episode of the Working Fans podcast.
Friday trivia question came through in the Rumble. Who would have thought?
Yeah. Piper Niven back. Not Dewdrop. Piper Niven. So she's back as Piper Niven, which I thought
that I didn't even catch that. I noticed that during the broadcast. I believe it was Pat McAfee might have briefly called her Viper, or she was referred to as a Viper in some sense.
Yeah.
And that was her name prior to WWE. So it's great that they at least gave her the WWE name back.
Yes. And they also, this commentary team, I think, was having fun with a lot of stuff too. And because they kept kind of joking, like, will she drop someone in? I hope she does. Do she? They kept referencing Dewdrop a lot, which I thought was okay. They're kind of having fun. They're laughing at this. And I kind of like that from the commentary team. I thought the commentary team was great all night.
Well, that was one thing you and me had texted back and forth about, because just that afternoon we had recorded some commentary, and then just sitting there and listening to them do the commentary, it was amazing how smooth they were, how they're able to have fun in the moment, but still do what's ahead of them. And I just envied their comfortability in that spot.
Absolutely. And it's three people too, especially if you think they really didn't know McAfee was going to be there, which I have a hard time believing, but if they didn't, God bless them. Back agrees with us. He liked the back and forth between Graves and McAfee. I thought they were great together. And then, before we get to this awesome main event and the even more awesome angle afterwards, we did have a shitty concert in between. No offense to anyone a fan of Hardy, but what a bad time to put a concert. This is a long show, and at 11 something, we're going with this concert. No, you open with this or you put it on the pre-show.
And it's especially weird that you would do it between the Women's Rumble and the main event and set the stage in the ring. So you're not only creating load up time that you're going to have to take the ropes down, put the drum riser on there, put all the amps in the ring, but then you're creating a situation where you have to get them out of the ring.
Yeah.
And if you're thinking by that time, it's probably 11:30.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't need that extra work on top of things. And that definitely slowed things down. When we didn't get that concert early on, I figured they just cut it. I was hoping they just cut it.
Yeah, they did not.
And this was For WWE, this was some of the worst live music performing ever. And it was heavier country. It should be not bad, but it was garbage in its spot. I think people might have been a little more forgiving earlier in the show.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, this is the worst time you could have put this on there. All right, main event: Kevin Owens, Roman Reigns. Now, the fact that they put this on last, which we were setting up the angle for, was good because it made me actually think that Kevin Owens might have had a shot here. You know, I was still feeling heavy with Roman, but as this match was going on, when when Roman is looking for that chair, you know, and Sammy's like hesitating to give him that chair. And then there's that one point where Owens hits the stunner. It was like, oh man, you could do that, and then you could set this up where Roman's going to beat up Sammy. Didn't happen. Roman kicks out. Everybody is so good here. We're going to talk more about this as we get to the angle. But Paul Heyman, as he's like, Sammy, get the chair. What are you doing? The tribal chief is asking for that chair. So let's see. Back was in the comments. He's talking about Jey Uso posted on Instagram.
Well, first he's saying the concert would have been better had they done it after the Mountain Dew match.
Sure.
And then here's the Jey Uso comment you were talking about.
Yes.
I didn't know he had a post on it.
He did. We'll address that at the end because we'll go in a little storyline here. But basically, so at this point, the match, was heating up. We get the ref bump. Roman's looking again for that chair. And Sammy gives it to him, but he hesitates. And finally, Roman ends up in control. He spears Kevin Owens outside through a barrier. And then he takes Kevin's head. And it absolutely looks painful. How Kevin takes this, I don't know. But he takes his head and he slams him. And Kevin Owens is basically taking a back bump right on the stairs. And, I got to think, he's holding the back. Lucky he doesn't probably break his hands. It looks absolutely brutal. He does it twice. He gets him back in the ring. He looks out of it. Kevin slaps him in the face. And then, bam, Roman hits that spear finally, gets the pin, and it's over. And as Backley says, Satan was going to give up on Kevin. I actually thought, I was wondering, too, are they going to do something where Roman, like Sammy throws in a towel somehow for Kevin or, tries to stop it? But they did it. So we did, and then the beatdown comes, right? Now, before we get to the beatdown, Joe, did you have anything about this match you wanted to add?
No, it was a good match. I mean, by this time, I was just tired.
Right.
I was enjoying the match, but knowing that something was coming after this, I was just waiting for whatever was going to come because they basically, everything made you feel that this was like the final chapter of this partnership up to this point.
Yes. And it's funny talking to people about this, and I feel the same way you too. Like, people were either enjoying the show or it was solid, or you were starting to feel the fatigue of this event. And then that's when after the show was over, that angles took it to another level. And at this point now, here come the Usos. Here comes Sikoa, right? And we're beating down Kevin. We're beating him down. He's getting double super kicked after double super kick. He's getting Samoan spiked. And Roman's looking at Paul, and he's like, he wants some handcuffs. And Paul's like, Tribal Chief wants handcuffs. I deliver it. He's handed out multiple. And Roman is just such a classic heel here. He's rubbing his hands together. He's smiling, and they're tying up Kevin, and they're beating him down some more. And then finally, he's going to get the chair. And that's when Sammy's had enough. And you can just feel this crowd, right? They're reacting. Sammy hasn't even grabbed. He just got in front of him. They're pumped. They want Sammy to do something here. And Sammy, almost typically still in the same character, right? He's using his head. He's like, you're beneath this. You don't need to do this, right? He's trying to talk him out in a sensible kind of way that Sammy would do. Everything makes sense with this main event, this storyline. And Roman is like frustrated. He's like, yeah, you're right. It is. You do it. You do it. And you hear Paulie, Smooly, this is your chance, right? I love how Paul calls him Smooly. And Sammy doesn't want to do it. And there's that hesitation and that thing. Like, people are almost expecting to hit Roman in the back like the Shield, and he doesn't do it yet. And then you see Roman just starts pie facing them. What are you crying? We don't cry in the bloodline. What are you doing? The Usos are like, come on, Sammy. And then finally, Roman turns his back again. Sammy hits Roman. And at that point, Joe, I think that was the massive fucking pop, right? That's when this story turned to another level. And Backry points out, Roman's known as better, turns back on a chair, just like before with the Shield. So that's it. And now this is, to me, personally, where the story gets even that I think you talked about last night at text, where they added another layer, right? This is where it gets great. Jimmy Uso, who accepted Sammy right away, almost on a superficial level, looking back at it now.
Wasn't it Jey Uso?
No. Jay's the one who didn't want.
Oh, he's the one that was won over by him.
Right. Yeah. Jimmy wouldn't accepted him. See, he's talking about that now. So Jimmy is immediately no, kicks him in the head. He's pissed off, and he's beating him down. And Jay is like, "What? You were supposed to be my brother. What's the matter with you?" And then, right, so then Sikoa here too. Solo grabs Jimmy off and just hits Sammy with a Samoan spike. And Paul Heyman is selling the shit out of this right now. He actually looks legitimately scared. And at this point, you see Jay. He's not moving. He's not doing anything. And the crowd is reacting. They want Jay to, get involved here. Because Jay's now on a very real level. We go back to where Jay said one time, "I don't give a damn what the tribal chief says," right?
Yeah.
And other segments. Jay was always the one. He's kind of his own man. And that's what it was. So when Sammy finally won him over, Jay didn't want this turn. This was conflicting for Jay. Jay doesn't want to go against his face, so Jay just gets out. And he walks away, and he looks heartbroken. And now Roman, he's just pissed off. Where the fuck you going? He's going to take us to Sammy. But not almost not in a sincere way. He's saying, you ruined my family. He's just pissed, you're embarrassed. That's supposed to be one of my boys who has my back, And he's just beating down Sammy some more. And this crowd, fuck you, Roman, right? And they're going in on it. And now this is giving me vibes of almost old NWO, when Hogan turned here. And because, it's not garbage in the ring, but there's the flowers, the lay in the ring there. But then Roman, as they're down FU, right, he does that thing where he just takes the parts of the flowers and the lay just drops it on Sammy. All right, he's just I don't give a shit about what you people think. There's your guy. And I thought this was excellent.
Yeah, at the end of this, and to Backley's point here, do we get a bloodline civil war? I literally just saw Sammy breaking off and going maybe with Kevin. And now that it could be possibly, Sammy, Jay, and Kevin, I was looking at it at that moment. I'm like, you could very well do a 6-man match here.
Yep.
And have Solo, Jimmy, and Roman versus these three, maybe even make it smaller. Find what's going to happen with the tag team championships now. Because I thought for sure it would be Usos versus Sammy and Kevin at Mania.
I think we get there. And here's, I think I heard Brian Alvarez says he thinks they might do Sammy and Roman in Montreal, and Jey Uso comes out after weeks of kind of being conflicted. He's got his family's back, right? And he turns on Sammy, and that sets up Sammy and Kevin against the Usos for Mania. I'm going to put a little spin on that, though. I say he comes out, they continue this, though, right? Where Jay's conflicted, and there's an accident that happens where they lose, and Sammy doesn't get the belt, and it leads into this WrestleMania match still, where Sammy and Kevin eventually win, right? But Jay may even cost Roman the title against Cody later on. You could still build to this Jay Roman. There's so many different things you can go here. We're back. We talk about Civil War, and
let's bring up the comment that he's talking about. The people can't see it here.
Yeah.
Jay walks out on Jimmy.
Yeah.
You've got so many things possibly ahead of you that.
Excellent.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to say about the Rumble? Because I know AJ's gonna probably want to talk about it a little bit on Friday, but I think an interesting segment for you guys on Friday are what Mania matches do we see emerging from this Rumble?
Yeah, absolutely. We could talk about that, and I'll just add one more thing here too. Just a question for you two. In your opinion, is this the hottest storyline WWE has had in the last decade that comes to mind?
Oh, no question. This is the best thing they've had. It came at an opportune time when, maybe AEW was starting to face a little more public scrutiny and where sometimes their storytelling is falling off. This is the most solid thing WWE has brought us.
Yeah.
Backley, big fan of that Logan Paul Ricochet spot. And, hey guys, we're happy to just sit here and talk a little Royal Rumble with you today. But Dave, you know who brought this preview or this review to us?
Oh man. Was it our boy Vinny Barry?
Vinny Barry in the Pro Wrestling Vault Volume 2.
Read about the Northern Wrestling Federation in the book presented by Russellville.com, The Pro Wrestling Vault Volume 2. Hear the story of Roger Ruffin, the man who trained Carl Anderson, the Monster Abyss, Jordan Clearwater, Chris Harris, and Jillian Hall.
Plus 45 other short stories including Jazz, Bobby Eaton, Kamala, Thunder Rosa, Mario Mancini, Scott Casey, PJ Black, Kerry Morton, Sal Renaro, Jeremiah Plunkett, Colby Carino, Bam Bam Malone, and many others.
Get your book today at Russellville.com. Russellville. It's where wrestling lives.